Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are taking an incredibly deep dive into an absolute masterclass of fantasy world building. We're going to be focusing on the deeply intricate, almost scientific mechanics of elemental combat and magic. You know, the best magic systems are the ones that don't just feel like random spells, but actually feel like hard science within their own universe. And that's exactly what we're looking at today. We're going to unpack a brilliant, grueling training sequence where a master teacher named Concordia takes a group of hunters, known as Era's archers, and completely shatters their entire understanding of what it means to shoot a bow. If you've ever been fascinated by how magic systems can be grounded in physical, biological, and even metaphysical laws, well, you are going to absolutely love this. Let's get started.
So I want to pose this question directly to you, right off the bat. What does it actually take to turn a simple, physical arrow into a literal force of nature? When a character named Mimi, who is one of the archers in training, is first asked about her approach to archery, her logic is pretty straightforward. She thinks, well, you just have to hit your target without spooking your prey. Simple enough, right? But as we're about to see, that mindset, it is barely scratching the surface. Shooting an arrow is, on its face, a purely physical act. But elevating that act to an art form, to true elemental magic, requires tapping into the hidden realities of the universe.
Okay, let's dive into this three-part syllabus we've extracted from the lore. First, we'll cover the physical foundation. Second, we'll explore the metaphysical rules. And finally, we'll wrap up with the Wind Mastery curriculum.
Part 1. The physical foundation.
Before you can even think about the magic, you have to master the physical. Concordia breaks down archery into three major prerequisites that simply must be mastered before you can even hope for a successful hunt. Now, these might sound like the absolute basics, but they run incredibly deep. The first component is the senses. The second is balance. And the third is a deep, intimate knowledge of the material composition of your weapons. Let's actually break these down one by one, because the detail here is fascinating.
The first component is the mastery of the senses. Now, in our world, that just means having good eyesight, right? But in this universe, your specific elemental affinity actually unlocks entirely extrasensory perceptions. For instance, a water affinity grants what's called depth perception, which literally reveals multiple realities linked to the habits of your prey. It's wild. Wind and lightning affinities, they unlock zone perception, granting this vast, sweeping, almost radar-like field of view of the environment. And if you have an earth affinity, that awakens magnetic perception, allowing you to actually navigate using the planet's magnetic poles. But regardless of what your element is, sensing the wind is absolutely critical for everyone. Concordia beautifully compares this to the whiskers of feline and canine predators. You must always approach your prey from downwind, so your scent isn't carried toward them. The wind is the very first thing that will betray you if you aren't paying attention.
Which brings us to the second component, balance. Concordia teaches that a weapon shouldn't just be a tool, it must be utilized as a literal extension of your own body. And here's the kicker. Your body is dictated by your elemental affinity. If you try to use a weapon that defies your natural form, it drastically alters your center of gravity and completely ruins your accuracy. For example, wind types naturally excel with speedy, ranged weapons. We're talking bows, dual swords, javelins. Earth types, on the other hand, possess immense, raw physical strength, so they are perfectly suited for heavy, powerful weapons, like broadswords and axes. Lightning users naturally gravitate toward piercing weapons like spears, which act as perfect conduits to channel electrical conductivity. If you wield a weapon that your body type simply wasn't built for, you're going to be thrown entirely off balance in the heat of battle.
The final physical component is material composition. Archery here is essentially a massive game of customization and trade-offs. Using lighter materials like wood or ivory greatly enhances the speed and the range of your shots. That makes them absolutely perfect for taking down lightly armored, agile prey. However, let's say you are hunting a heavily armored or incredibly muscular beast. A wooden arrow isn't going to cut it. You need arrows constructed from steel or iron for that massive penetrative force. But, of course, there's a catch. Firing heavier arrows demands immense physical strength. If you lack that specific bodily strength, those heavy materials will drastically reduce your speed, ruin your range, and once again, completely throw off your physical balance. It's all connected.
Part 2. The metaphysical rules. Now we move from the physical bow to the laws of the universe itself. This brings us to what is arguably the most vital law of life in this entire lore, the rule of balance. All life, everything, is maintained by the balance of primordial elements.
But the key detail here is that the elements within your body must always be in harmony with the elements outside your body. The internal elements you have, those are regulated by genetics and hereditary factors, stuff passed down from your parents. External elements, however, are dictated entirely by the environment you happen to be standing in.
When your internal elements and the external elements are in harmony, a living organism is in what the lore calls the healthy state. Think of a warm-blooded mammal existing comfortably at room temperature. The fire within matches the fire outside. It's perfect. But when there is a severe imbalance between the two, the organism plummets into a disease state, or even worse, a deathly state. For instance, if external fire overwhelms your internal fire, you overheat. If your internal fire vastly exceeds the external fire, like in a freezing climate, you suffer terrible chills, which is what forces reptiles into hibernation. If external wind overwhelms you, you are literally poisoned by it. If you are deprived of external wind, you suffocate. Life in this universe is a constant, fragile, beautiful balancing act.
So, you might be wondering, what happens when that balance isn't just maintained, but perfected? Concordia introduces this incredible concept of perfect harmony. When the degree of harmony between your internal elements and the external environment becomes absolute, your body completely loses its resistance to that element. This is the ultimate goal. It means you become completely immune to the element's debilitating effects. And, as a massive bonus, achieving this state awakens incredible extrasensory abilities. For Mimi and the rest of Era's archers, their entire goal is to achieve perfect harmony with the wind specifically so they can awaken that sweeping zone perception we talked about earlier.
Part 3. The Wind Mastery Curriculum. This is where the training gets really intense.
The syllabus for mastering the element of wind is broken down into 3 very specific hurdles. The students have to pass Level 1, the aerial aura level, followed by Level 2, the aerial field level, and finally, they have to reach Level 3, the aerial sensory level, which represents complete, total mastery. Let's look at exactly how they tackle this first hurdle.
Level 1 is all about overcoming sensory adaptation. Think about it. Because we are constantly surrounded by air, we're breathing it, we're feeling it on our skin, we're hearing vibrations travel through it, we subconsciously adapt to it. We take the wind completely for granted. We don't even notice it's there most of the time. To fix this, Concordia traps the archers inside this massive structure called the Earthen Pegasus. It is a near-vacuum environment with a severely limited amount of air. They are forced to live in this hostile, breathless, completely silent environment for a full week. Imagine the psychological toll of that. When they finally step back out into the natural world, the overwhelming bodily shock of actually feeling the air makes them perceive it as if for the very first time. Their baseline sensitivity is finally awakened.
But awakening that sensitivity is only phase 1. Next comes the actual survival test. Concordia sends them right back into the Earthen Pegasus, but this time each archer is handed a fiery torch that they have to keep lit from sunrise to sunset. Now, here is the brutal catch. The environment still has an extremely limited air supply, so the archers are actively competing with their own torches for oxygen. At first, they fail miserably. They throw up from the nausea as the torches just eat all the available air. But then, Mimi observes Concordia. The master teacher isn't gasping for air. She is maintaining this incredibly slow, steady, conscious breathing rhythm. The archers suddenly realize that simply by breathing, living organisms subconsciously regulate their environment. By consciously slowing their own breathing rhythms, they can serve oxygen, keep the torches alive, and successfully pass Level 1.
To explain Level 2, which deals with elemental fields, Concordia relies on a really brilliant analogy. Every source of elemental energy generates a wave, and those waves produce fields. Imagine a fish swimming in the ocean. The water surrounding the fish is essentially an aquatic field. To a human observing from the outside, the field is entirely obvious. But to the fish, who is born and bred inside of it, the field is practically invisible. We are just like that fish. We are completely blind to the fields we live inside of every single day.
The universe in this lore isn't just empty space. It's like a giant onion layered with countless overlapping elemental fields. Fire generates heat fields. Wind generates aerial fields for sound and scent. Earth generates magnetic and gravitational fields. You even have chronofields for time, aquatic fields, electrical fields, and photonic fields for light. All these fields exist simultaneously all around us, stacked on top of each other. And the coolest part is that different creatures naturally tap into them. Sharks, for instance, use special organs to navigate electrical fields in the water. Elephants actually use their tusks to sense deep underground aquatic fields, allowing them to track the literal flow of hidden water sources from miles away.
But interacting with these fields carries immense risk. A field is considered beneficial if an organism actually possesses an organ to process it, and it promotes their healthy state. A great example is humans having lungs for aerial fields, or plants having chlorophyll to process photonic fields. However, a beneficial field instantly transforms into a detrimental field under two specific conditions. First, if the external field completely overwhelms the internal elements, like extreme heat or blinding light. Second, if the organism simply lacks the sensory organ to process it altogether, like a human drowning in an aquatic field because, well, we don't have gills. If you lack the biological affinity for a field, it will inflict debilitating damage on you.
Now, to truly master the aerial field, the archers have to understand the deep metaphysics of respiration. And this is where it gets really philosophical. Respiration isn't just inhaling oxygen, it's the fundamental way a living being interacts with the universe. Inspiration, breathing in, is absorbing an element from an external field into your body to release energy. It is quite literally the act of absorbing life. Expiration, on the other hand, is releasing that processed element back out into the atmosphere. Because you are pushing out energy after it's already been consumed and used up, it is metaphysically associated with releasing a fraction of your own life force, or essentially death, back into the environment.
Which finally brings us to the secret of graduating level 2. You see, breathing isn't just a job for your lungs. The air we breathe actually combines with our blood plasma, and through a biological process of diffusion, it exchanges between the air sacs in our lungs and the capillaries in our bloodstream. That means every single cell in your body is involved in respiration. Every cell breathes. Concordia reveals that to master the aerial field, the archers must learn to willfully control the breathing rate of their very cells. By training inside the earthen Pegasus and using the fading flames of their torches as a visual gauge, they literally learn to consciously program their cellular respiration. And doing this, it grants them the absolute miraculous ability to physically manipulate the ambient air surrounding their bodies.
And that stunning, incredibly difficult achievement effortlessly unlocks level 3, aerial senses. By bringing their internal cellular breathing into perfect harmony with the external aerial field, the archers lose all resistance to the wind. Because of their newly honed natural affinity, manipulating the wind becomes entirely intuitive. They don't even have to think about it. They can now use the wind to levitate objects. They can summon their arrows and redirect them in midair to hit moving targets. They can even achieve true flight, vastly increasing their range and effectiveness as scouts. They didn't just learn a neat magic trick, they achieved perfect harmony with the actual biological and metaphysical reality of their universe. Which leaves us with a truly fascinating question to end our masterclass today. We've seen exactly how Era's archers achieved mastery over the aerial field, altering their bodies on a cellular level to seamlessly wield the wind. So, if achieving perfect harmony with an element grants you immunity and absolute mastery over its hidden reality, which of the elemental fields would you choose to tap into? Would you try to master the chronofields of time, or maybe the magnetic fields of the Earth? It's a wonderful thought experiment that really shows just how deeply crafted and well thought out this lore truly is. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and remember to always keep exploring those hidden realities.